Hey, welcome back to the realm of history, everybody. Pretty fiery in the chat already. Some great ideas. But hey, we got the big quiz tomorrow, Monday quiz. So looking forward to helping you out tonight. Make sure that you're getting ready and being here now. Now, one of the things I will say is that don't forget to check in with me in the comments. If you could remind me what hour you are. Sometimes when I'm not in the rhythm of class, it's hard to remember what hour everybody's in. I've got it down pretty good, but just remind me what hour you're representing in the attendance challenge tonight. And make sure you do that in the comments, or else you won't get credit. If I find that I feel like there's some uh, corruption going on, especially from some of the revolutionaries, then I may have to cancel the extra credit entirely. That's so easy for me to do. Help me out. Less math for me on the grading. So, nonetheless, we're going to get into the basic agenda tonight. We've got key advice. We've got selected key terms, figures, and places. We've got some AP info. I've got some important textbook pages to remind you of. And of course, some question and answer time, maybe a little bit of final advice tonight as well. Let's get into that key advice. Hey, remember, write some things down from this session. Read through your notes several times through. I think that's really important. I would say I gave you a lot of clues on the review sheet, but there could be some really important questions that come from, of course, the notes, the outlines that you are supposed to be responsible for. And I think that this being a 5-section chapter, can't put everything on the review sheet, right? So you got to make sure that you've done your due diligence, that you're taking the great notes, that you're doing your reading, so on and so forth. Pray for the right things. There's so many things going on in the world right now. I would say that this quiz, it's a 20-point quiz with a 10-point AP, right? Hey, make sure that you're praying for the right things. Don't pray for success on this quiz, but rather, pray for the health and safety of yourself, pray for the health and safety of your family. With Lent coming about, start thinking about how you're going to either give back or do something beneficial, do something beneficial during Lent. And I think that you got to remember that we are so blessed. It's time to express a little bit of that gratitude and thank the good Lord for all the blessings that you've been bestowed with. And just remember, like the small things when you wake up. Thank you, good Lord, for giving me this day, and thank you for blessing me. And when you get to school safely say thank you. I think if you can do that, you're going to be in really good shape. And I think that's the most important thing that I'm going to say all night. Number 3, remember to be here now, right? You're coming off a 5-section chapter. It's Sunday night. You got a quiz Monday, right? There's a lot of you on, which is awesome, but you got to make sure you maximize your efforts when you come into the realm tomorrow. Be here now. Pop in world history, pop in French Revolution, Napoleon, right? Congress of Vienna. Those are the things you really need to be focusing on in preparation for this quiz. Make sure that you take some time to say thank you to your parents. I know that they do a lot for you. You know that. So make sure that you're doing that appropriately. If you need to do that right now or after this session, before you go to bed, make sure you tell them that you love them and say thank you for all of the blessings that they've helped you with as well. And finally, you know, I'm hoping it's going to be a challenge. I'm hoping it's going to be a challenge tomorrow. I hope that the short answers will give you quite a challenging process. I know that the multiple choice and the matching, there's a couple of them on there that probably come from the reading, that might be challenging. So meet the challenge. Don't shy away. Don't skip school. Don't skip school. That's the worst thing you can do because it's going to set you even further back, especially if you've been absent. Get it in, do your quiz, and then move on to the next thing before you fall behind. You don't want to fall behind in this class. That's the worst thing that you can do. And I'm here to help you, but you can't be extending things out. Let's get it done. Let's rise to the occasion. Make sure you're putting in the effort. Okay, let's go to the key terms, the key figures, and the key places, starting with the first estate, right? In France, they had the social classes called the states, and the first estate was, you know, doing pretty well. The Catholic Church clergy members, right? The priests, the bishops, so on and so forth. They didn't have to pay much in taxation. They had a lot of power in France. The Catholic Church is very powerful in France. So that first estate, they don't want much change. They don't want much. They don't like the Enlightenment. They don't like the Enlightenment. And they want to continue to do what they've been doing and making sure that they are staying in that first position. Then you got the second estate. The second estate, even more so, doing really, really well. The nobles, the large landowners, the super wealthy, right? These are folks that didn't pay any taxes, even though they were the most powerful, the most wealthy landowners in all of France. Okay. So they really don't want any change. They do not want a revolution. They want to keep the monarchy in place. And so they're not looking for any Enlightenment ideas. They're not supporting those things very much at all. Third estate is where the vast majority of French people were in. You've got three groups that made it up. You got the middle class, which is also called the bourgeoisie. Now, these folks had some wealth. They could be factory owners, farm owners. They could be small plots of land owners, so on and so forth. Then you have the working class. They're working regular jobs, day laborers, domestic servants. And then you've still got peasants in France. You still have a little bit of serfdom and feudal society for production of goods. The vast majority of people in France were in the peasant class, very, very poor, didn't even really make an actual wage in that class. All right, so because of the Enlightenment ideas, the social classes, the revolutionary thoughts and processes, you got the political spectrum developing. The political spectrum was where you have many different political ideologies that arose from the Enlightenment, spanning from the very conservative side. These are people who wanted to keep monarchy in place, to the liberal side, which are people who wanted to overthrow the monarchy at that time. And then you've got moderates. These are people in the middle who kind of want some government change, but not a complete overhaul and overthrow. So I'm going to check the comments soon, but I've got 138 comments, but only 70 people on. So that seems to be a little bit alarming to me. I don't know if people are jumping on and jumping off and just commenting that they're here. You might try to work the system. I'll just cancel the extra credit. So if my investigation deduces that that's the case, then just nobody will get extra credit. I'm totally cool with that. That doesn't bother me at all. That makes the scores even more even. So that doesn't affect anything. We might just make that decision right now before I even investigate. But I will investigate. Okay, so let's talk about those wings. In the Legislative Assembly, the legislative body, they had meeting rooms in France, and they all met in the same room. And what happens is people tended to gravitate to one side or the other of the room, and that sort of created the left wing and right wing ideology of the political spectrum. During the revolution, the left wingers, okay, these were liberals and radicals. They wanted complete government change. They wanted complete overthrow of the monarchy. In the center of the room were your moderates. These are the people who wanted some political change, but not a complete overthrow. And then at that time, during the revolution, you had the right wing. These are people that gravitated, of course, to the right side of the room. They wanted to conserve the monarchy. Therefore, they wanted little to no change. So if you're looking for royalists, that would be the conservatives back then. The liberals would be people who were more revolutionary at that time. I want to talk about a key figure named Robespierre. Remember when he got into power as a Jacobin party leader? He wanted to build a republic of virtue. He wanted to get rid of anybody who was opposed to the revolution. And he led what was called the Reign of Terror, in which over 40,000 French citizens were killed by way of the guillotine for speaking out against the revolution, counter-revolutionary ideologies, so on and so forth. Next is called the émigrés. The émigrés were royalists, wealthy landowning nobles in France that they decided to leave France. Most of them went to Great Britain, hoping to someday return and restore the monarchy. So they're looking to build an army in England, and someday, or Austria, or the Netherlands, or Belgium. And then they're looking to someday return and restore the monarchy. So those were the émigrés. Next, we're going to talk about the Legislative Assembly. This is a key term that refers to the first revolutionary government that eventually led to the creation of the legislative body, which was a branch that proposed laws. They started off as the National Assembly during the Tennis Court Oath, during the meeting at the Palace of Versailles when they were locked out. They eventually become known as the Legislative Assembly or legislative body. It's another word that you could use there. All right, we're going to talk about what happens after Napoleon. Congress of Vienna. Remember, Napoleon did a lot of damage in Europe. So this was a meeting to decide how they're going to bring Europe back to normal after all the wars that were caused by Napoleon and all the people that he put in power. Like in Spain, he puts his brother, right, Joseph, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that kind of drove the purpose of that meeting. I think I got a spelling error, sign of weakness by me. It should be two S's on Congress. That's totally my fault. Let's take a look at the reforms of Napoleon. Some things that you might want to know, and I think that this is a good possibility for the short answers. He did tax reforms, right? How to collect taxes more efficiently, banking system, public schools called the lycees, the Napoleonic Code of Laws, the Concordat or agreement with the Pope, the plebiscite, the vote of the people to ratify or, approve the Constitution. So those are some of the things that you're going to want to know there. Since I said it, plebiscite is a vote of the people. In this particular case in French history, it was to prove a new constitution drafted by Napoleon. Lycees is the term for the government-run schools that were open to males of all backgrounds. What started the whole French Revolution was the Estates General. Remember, this was a meeting of all three social classes in France. In the case of the French Rev, it was to decide on a proposed tax of the Second Estate. This led to the French Revolution. Louis XVI said, hey, the Second Estate, the nobles, the wealthy, they don't pay any taxes. The entire tax burden's on the Third Estate. I need funding. Let me raise taxes on the Second Estate. And this led to the Third Estate rebelling because at the Estates General, remember, the First and Second Estate voted no on that proposed vote, whereas the Third Estate thought that that should be something that would be approved. Then at the end of Section 5, you had something called the Holy Alliance. The Holy Alliance was an alliance of Russia, Prussia, and Austria to enforce Christian principles. And what that means is trying to focus on stopping wars, stopping anti-Christian thought, stopping attacks on the church or churches, because they all were not Catholic. Russia was Orthodox, so on and so forth. You also had something called the Concert of Europe. The Concert of Europe was an alliance system similar to a modern United Nations that was put together to help nations facing revolts. So revolts like what happened in France, revolts like we're going to learn about in Haiti, revolts that happen in Latin America, revolts that happen in Italy and Germany, and so on and so forth. So the Concert of Europe was put together to help and prevent revolutions and rebellions. I do have some important textbook pages that I think are pertinent and I think very, very relevant for you to study. Page 652, 654. 659 is about the guillotine. I think that's a really good page. It talks a lot about the process of inventing the guillotine and how people came to watch people get pretty much executed. And then 670 is about the Russian invasion by Napoleon and all of the men that were lost at different stages in that invasion process. Before I go to the question and answer session, I do have a couple of pieces of AP advice. There's only going to be 3 AP questions. I'm looking at the test right now. I did tell you during this chapter to do some research on a very famous and important document. That document, I said, find a PDF copy of this document online. It's the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of Citizen. And that was a very defining document of the French Revolution. One of the more important documents that you're going to see multiple times on the AP exam. So that's what this AP MCQ set is all about. It's about the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Okay. Now, I do want to go to the questions. I got to look at the comments. There's a lot of comments here. So please let me look here. I see some crazy stuff going on. Please keep your questions and comments appropriate. Okay. All right. I hate bald people. We don't have hate here, so I'm gonna ban this user. All right, all set there. All right. I'm just looking for real questions. All right. Yeah, I'll piece through these comments and make sure that I've got everybody set up. Nope. If somebody's on a plane and can't join, they're not going to count. So you can't check in for your friends. We're not doing that. Everybody be nice, okay? Everybody be nice to each other. Jeez. Everybody's just got to behave. Okay, I'm looking for real questions here. Okay, here's some real questions. All right, here we go. So we got, what is the concordat with the Pope in Napoleon's reform? So basically, Pope Pius VII and Napoleon came to an agreement that church and state would be separate, that the church would not be able to control the French government, and the French government couldn't control the church, right? This was a big issue toward the end of the French Revolution because the Legislative Assembly was taking away Catholic Church lands and then selling them off to pay off government debt. So that's why the Concordat was necessary. There was a lot of tension between the Catholic Church and the French government at the time. So that's really the big answer there. A Concordat is an agreement, but it was about the separation of church and state. Okay, excellent question, Devin. So when you take a look at the National Assembly was really the first revolutionary government. The Legislative Assembly or legislative body became a branch of that revolutionary government that was responsible for making laws and declaring wars. So the National Assembly is like the government as a whole. The Legislative Assembly is like the branch of government that makes laws and so on and so forth. So, yeah, this is a good question. I'm probably going to make them worth, I'd like to make them worth 3 points each tomorrow and front you 1 point. That's what I think I'm going to do. So, good question. Metternich's 3 goals were pretty were pretty good as far as like trying to piece Europe together. The first thing that he wanted to do was contain France. He wanted to make sure that France, who has been an aggressor for a long time, would be kept in check. Second, he wanted to do something called legitimacy, which means put the rulers that Napoleon had put in place of the official rulers. For example, in Spain, he gets rid of the King Ferdinand, puts his brother Joseph on the throne. Metternich wanted to put all of those rulers who are the rightful heirs or rightful rulers back on their thrones. And one of the key things that he also wanted to do was create a balance of power in Europe so that no one country would become too powerful. Like it took an alliance of 5 nations to defeat Napoleon, right? So Metternich was trying to create a balance of power in Europe to where that could not happen again. This will be dependent on what version. There's 2 versions. Some versions have different amount of questions. So some have more short answers, some has less. So I'm not going to really answer that. You kind of can figure it out when you get your quiz. Already answered this one, probably only one. Sure. The storming of the Bastille was one of the first acts of the revolution. See, the Bastille was a prison in France, and the people, the peasants, the workers, they were afraid that your boy Louis the 16th was going to use the French army against the people, which he was. And so they stormed the Bastille. And the reason that they did that wasn't to really release the prisoners, it was to kill the guards and take their weapons. You know, prisons have weapons so that the guards can defend against prison breaks or mutinies there. And so that's one thing that they did. But the storming of the Bastille became a symbolic act of revolution. And it's kind of like 4th of July. Bastille Day is kind of like 4th of July in France today. A lot of guys ask the same question, so I've answered that one. I'll start with the Battle of Trafalgar. Battle of Trafalgar was one of Napoleon's only major losses. It was a naval battle off the coast of Spain in which Admiral Nelson from the Great Britain, he defeated Napoleon thoroughly, and Napoleon lost most of his fleet of ships, which meant that he really kind of had to give up on ever invading England. If you don't have a strong navy, you can't invade England. The Battle of Waterloo was Napoleon's final battle during the 100 days after he escaped from the island of Elba. He was thoroughly routed by pretty much the combination of British and Prussian troops there. And that led to his final downfall. I'm not going to worry about LEQ tonight. We're going to focus on chapter 23. Be here now. Declaration of the Rights of Man is simply the document that I mentioned that kind of was utilized by the French revolutions, the French revolutionaries, to basically state what their thoughts and ideas were. Napoleon made three major mistakes. Number one was the Continental System, the blockade of England, right? Number two was the Peninsular War, trying to invade Portugal by marching through Spain, which got him into a long, drawn-out effect. And then you also have the invasion of Russia, which we know lost him about over 400,000 troops. So you can do the research and look at your notes for more of an explanation about those. But there it is. It's the Continental System, the Peninsular War, and also the invasion of Russia. Well, there's more than three reforms, Master Chief. One of them is the lycees, the public schools. The second one would be creating a better tax collection system. You've got the plebiscite, which was the vote of the people for the Constitution. You've got the Concordat. You've got the Napoleonic Code. So you've got quite a bit of reforms that Napoleon made. Why did Enlightenment ideas not include women? A great question. I don't think I can actually answer that one. I think if you look at history, I think men are afraid back in this time of women gaining power. I think men are afraid of women gaining rights, which would make them equal. I think there was a sense of control, especially during this time, that men had over women, and I don't think they wanted to relinquish that. And even these men who wrote about equality and individuality and rights and freedoms, they were not willing to extend that even to their own wives and daughters. And I think, this is just me studying history, I think it's a sense of control. And I don't think they wanted to relinquish that control for fear of what they may lose, as far as like being able to control this and that. But there's no real pinpoint answer. Nobody really came out and said, well, we're not letting women have rights because of this. No. The guillotine is a machine. It's a machine that basically made public executions more efficient. For more information about it, study the textbook page 659. I didn't see them. I try to start where all the questions began. Re-speak. If you don't mind, retype them down here more toward the questions, and I will certainly answer those. I do apologize if I missed them. Once again, be here now. We're focused on chapter 23 right now. Robespierre, I went over during the key terms and figures and people. He's one of the first people on there that I went over tonight. Once again, short answers. I told you there's a couple of versions. I said at least 5. Well, there's only MCQs, right, tomorrow. So we're not to the LEQ yet. That's going to be next chapter. One of the things I would say for the MCQ is to know the Declaration of the Rights of Man. AMSCO 5.1 and 5.2. I did not say that. No, I did not say that. Not at all. Okay, Evo Lango's got to go on timeout. What is going on here? Just trying to, yeah. States General is a meeting of all three social classes. It's something that it was done, periodically throughout French history. And what happens is delegates from all three estates come and they meet, but they have to basically only cast one cumulative vote. It's not like every single delegate gets the vote. They they come together and they're basically only allowed to cast one vote per estate. So what ends up happening is the first and second estates, before they go into their private meeting rooms, are like, hey, we're going to vote this way. You're going to vote this way. We'll stick together. We'll outnumber the third estate. So the third estate was never able to win because of that. And that's why it caused a lot of drama during the French Revolution. Yeah, this I'm not going to tell you, Adelina. You have to read and study it on your own. Okay. You know that it's an Enlightenment document and it talks about freedoms and rights. So understanding the document is not something that I can or really am willing to tell you right now. I want you to read it and then be able to utilize it. That'd be the skill that you should focus on there. Other than influence from the American Revolution, Enlightenment ideas would be the biggest one. Enlightenment ideas, Enlightenment authors, Enlightenment writers like Locke, like Voltaire, like Rousseau, who were all from France, by the way, except for Locke. They were all the others were from France. Once again, Enlightenment ideas, Enlightenment ideas, Enlightenment ideas, American Revolution, success of other revolutions. I don't think memorizing like anything word for word, but understanding the concepts, right? The key concepts, which is what Adelina is talking about. Like, what is it about? What's it fighting for? What's it arguing for? What's the big picture of what is the Declaration of the Rights of Man about? What is it looking for? What is it representing? Yeah, something like that there, ballers. Well, remember what happened with the rights of women. A woman said, Olympe de Gouges, she wrote, hey, I don't think the Declaration of the Rights of Man doesn't have anything to do with women. So she writes her own ideology, which was the Declaration of the Rights of Women. She got in big trouble and was executed because of that. So, yeah, that's another factor there, Master Noel. Not for long. Not for long. Full investigation underway. Well, you got a multitude of videos. You've got Heimler, of course. You've got Freemanpedia, which is the 80-day countdown. And then you've got your your AP Classroom account, which has daily videos for every section broken down really well. It also has like, it tells you how to basically compare and contrast. It tells you how to contextualize. It's really, really good. You've got quite a lot of videos out there that you can watch. Well, it showed that the well, it showed basically it's the storming of the Bastille. It kind of showed that citizens, peasants without weapons could win battles, ever so small. It just showed that they were willing and they were that motivated to fight back against the French government. I said it's going to be based on the Declaration of the Rights of Man. That's the name of the document. Five great powers were okay. France is still in the five great powers. You got Great Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and France. Even after France is defeated, they're still one of the greatest powers in Europe. Already talked about the emigres in this video at the beginning. All right, so I've answered quite a few questions. We've been on for 30 minutes. I'm willing to stay on for maybe one more minute to answer a couple more serious questions. If I don't, if you leave, good luck tomorrow. Hey, I really care about all of you as my students. Much love for every one of you. I want you to make sure that you study up and just focus in on doing the right thing, getting yourself as ready as possible, and giving the quiz your best effort. I think that's the most important thing. You can never go wrong if you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I did everything I could to get ready for this quiz. Any other questions? I'm going to have to wait till I close this off, and then I have to go through all the comments and add it all up. I haven't been able to, while I'm talking, check them off. So I'll have to announce it tomorrow. Now, Jaden, now you were getting on other people for being mean. That's pretty mean. And you have crew. Now I think you have double. I know what that means, big guy. It's not very nice. I'm probably going to have to put it on next quarter because it takes me a long time to grade those. Metternich led the Congress of Vienna. So he was the key administrator. He was an Austrian, basically foreign minister. So he led the meeting to put Europe back together. There's no cap on power rank. It's just basically how much I'm dazzled. If you can razzle and dazzle me, I give you as much as I really think is what the work that you did is worth. As key baller of the game, the Civilization Project, I'm like the absolute monarch, so I can kind of do whatever I want. Everything, Alexis. 2 sections worth on Napoleon. Nope. It's this right here. It's the glow off of my lights. I know exactly what you're talking about. You're not getting out of that one, Jaden. Double. Yes, he basically led the Congress of Vienna. Yes, sir. About 30 questions on the test, depending on what version you get. All right, didn't sneeze. Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to say now is to have a great night. Make sure you say thank you to your parents. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate you. And I will take a look at the attendance scores right now. And maybe I'll put on the realm who won if I decide to even do it, because there was a lot of goofiness going on here in the chat today. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.